Hi everyone, I'm Stella from Stella's Yarn Universe. In today's crochet tutorial, I show you how to make this little chubby chick. And I specifically designed this pattern for beginners, so it's ideal even if you never ever crocheted amigurumi. And yeah, it's just a nice little project to get you started and to see if you like it, which I hope you will. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions in the comments anytime. I just need to point out I will write this pattern in British terms. So for my American friends, when you see double crochet, don't be confused. This is made with single crochet only. So for this project, we'll need yarn in Aran or worsted weight. I'm using cotton yarn because I really like it, but you can use acrylic as well. This one here I made with acrylic yarn, which was also no problem at all. So I'll be using yellow mainly and then a tiny amount of orange, so I will only need a few inches of this. Hook wise, we need a 3.5 millimeter hook, which is a size E. And then we need some Fiberfill to stuff our chubby chick. And then for the eyes, we'll need some embroidery thread in black, but you can also use fine black yarn instead. And we'll need a yarn needle to embroider it. And then we just need a stitch marker, but alternatively you can just use yarn in a contrast color to mark the beginning of your rounds, and scissors of course. So without further ado, let's get started. So we begin with the yellow yarn, or any color you want to make your chubby chick in. I'm sure it looks super cute in other colors as well. So before we get started, we just need to cut a piece of yarn and put it aside for later, because we'll need that right here for the little hairs on the top and for the tail, because we don't want to fasten off our yarn in the middle of our project. That would be a bit frustrating. So we need to put aside around 21 inches. I won't measure, I just take 3 times the length from my pinky to my thumb, and that will be enough even if you have smaller hands than me. So we cut this off and put this aside for now, so then we can start with crocheting. And for amigurumi, we usually start with a magic ring, because the projects are crocheted in an endless spiral. So you start with the magic ring and crochet into it, and then you just go round and round and round. Some people join the rounds and then start a new round by making a chain, but that actually leaves something that looks like a seam at the beginning of the round, which I guess you don't want. So if you work in spirals, you get a much smoother, nicer finish. Also, an alternative to the magic ring is making a ring with 4 chains that are connected to form a circle, but the magic ring has the advantage of being able to close it completely, so that here in the middle there's barely any gap. There's just a little one now because I added the hair, but you can close it completely. And it's quite safe, but if you make something like a hat that you want to wash many times, then it might be safer to crochet a chain of 4 and connect it into a ring. So for the magic ring, I have a separate tutorial. It's very quick, but just if you never done one before and you want to see in more detail how it's done, I'll just link to it right there in the upper right corner, so you can check that out if it's your first magic ring. And I always say there are so many methods on how to make a magic ring, so if this one feels awkward to you, don't worry about it at all. If you just do a little YouTube search or Google search or Pinterest, you will find there are other methods that may be more comfortable for you. So it's easier to crochet in the magic ring when it's smaller, so I just try to make it fairly small by pulling the end. And now I will write each round there in the top so that you can see what I'm doing. And just a reminder again, these are British terms, so I live in the UK, so that's what I'm using for this video that I made for my friends here in the UK. But if you're American, just convert the double crochet to single crochet and you'll be fine. So in round 1, we double crochet 6 into the magic ring. So it's important that we crochet around the ring and this short end. Otherwise the magic ring won't close. So make sure to crochet around there. So you insert your hook in the ring and then pick up the yarn and pull it through the ring. And you can hold the ring in place with your middle finger and thumb to have maximum control over your hook and yarn. And now you pick up the yarn and pull it through the 2 loops on your hook to double crochet. That's 1 double crochet done. And now we do 5 more. So again, insert your hook in the ring, pull the yarn through, pick the yarn up again and pull it through the 2 loops. If you don't know how to double crochet / single crochet, I'll have a tutorial for you right there in the upper right corner that you can check out, just to recap on how to double crochet in general. It starts with a chain stitch, but then I show you how to double crochet in British terms or single crochet in American terms. That's 5, so 1 more in the magic ring. So here you can see that I crocheted over the ring and the end, because the end is peeking out from our last stitch. And now we pull the end tight, and as you can see there is no gap at all. And our ring is almost complete. We continue crocheting around now anti-clockwise, and with the next stitch our round will close. So this is the first round done. And now if you have a stitch marker, or you could also use a small safety pin, you can pop that in here in the last stitch, so you always know where your round finishes, because remember we work in an endless spiral. Well, almost endless. It ends here on the bottom of your amigurumi. So if you don't have a safety pin or a stitch marker, alternatively, to mark the end of the round, you can take a contrast color piece of yarn, and I'll show you how to do that, although this is optional, just in case you don't have a stitch marker at hand. or maybe you don't have any safety pins either, so you can just lay this contrast color piece of yarn there over your working end, so that it will be in between the last and the first stitch of the round, so you always know where you're at. Now we begin round 2. So we crochet here in our first stitch of the round. So we go round and round anti-clockwise. So you insert your hook under this V shape, and if you're anything like me, then you always make the first stitch too tight, and that's why sometimes I have to loosen it up to even get my hook in there, but this can be prevented. Sometimes I remember to not crochet the first stitch too tight to make life easier for me. So now in round 2 we increase in all 6 stitches. So INC stands for increase, and increase simply means that you double crochet 2 in each stitch, or in a stitch in this case. In this round you double crochet 2 in each stitch. That's it. So let me show you again. So you double crochet 1 in here in the first stitch, and now because we increase, we double crochet another one in the same stitch. So you insert your hook once more in here, and I always like to get hold of the loop that's already on my hook with my index finger. Just makes it easier to insert the hook, and then through the same stitch we pull the yarn once more and make a second double crochet. So then we move on to the next stitch and double crochet 1 and a second one in the same stitch. And now we double crochet 2 in the next stitch. And 2 in the next. Two in the next, and 2 in the last stitch. So now we have a round of 12 stitches, and that's always what you can see there in the braces. That's the number of stitches you should now have. So if you're ever unsure of if you've done the right amount of stitches, or if you've done the increases right, you can always count and double check to make sure that once the round is complete, you have the number that is stated in the braces there. So now we have 12, so we can move on to round 3. And if you're using the contrast color thread to mark the beginning of your round, you can now lay it on top of your working end like so, just so that it gets woven in your work and you always know where the beginning is. And the first stitch of the round is this stitch here where the contrast color yarn comes out now. So in round 3 we double crochet 1 and increase 1, and these braces mean that this is the series of stitches that we repeat 6 times. So whenever you see a series of stitches that's in these edgy braces, it means that will need to be repeated. And then the star sign there says it means multiply, so it needs to be repeated this many times, which is 6 times in this case. And then we'll end up with a stitch count of 18, which we can see there in the round braces. So the first stitch right here where the orange yarn comes out, that's where we double crochet 1 in, and then we increase in the next one, which simply means we double crochet 2 in the same stitch, and then we repeat this series. So double crochet 1 double crochet in the next, and increase 1, double crochet 2 in the same stitch, and now 4 more times, double crochet 1 and increase 1, double crochet 1, and increase 1, 5th time, double crochet 1, increase 1, and the last time double crochet 1 and increase 1. So now we have 18 stitches in the round, and we begin with round 4. So again, we lay this contrast color thread over the working end there to mark the beginning of our round. And now in round 4, in the bracelet, it states double crochet 2, increase 1, and this is to be repeated once again 6 times, which will make 24 stitches. So in this first stitch here, we double crochet 1, and then in the second one again we double crochet 1. So now we did the double crochet 2, and then we increase 1, so 2 double crochet in the third stitch. And now we do this 5 more times. So double crochet 1, double crochet 2, and increase, and 4 more times, double crochet 1, 2, and increase, so 3 in the third one, and again a single double crochet in the next, another single crochet double, another single double crochet in the next stitch, and increase, so 2 double crochet in the third one. So it's 1, 2, increase, and for the last time 1, 2, and increase. So if you ever feel like you made a mistake, you can check and see if you've done it right. So here, all these V shapes, they make up your stitches. So here since this is the last stitch, this is the first one. So here you made one double crochet, and here you can see that two V shapes are squeezed into one gap. So this is where you made your increase. So double crochet, increase, double crochet, increase, double crochet, increase, double crochet, increase, and double crochet, increase. So again, lay your contrast color yarn on top of your working end. Now in round 5 we keep increasing, so this time we double crochet 3 and then increase, and this series of stitches is to be repeated 6 times again. So once the round is complete, we have a round of 30 stitches. So in the first stitch right here, we single crochet, double crochet, I'm using British terms today, double crochet. In the second one we double crochet, and in the third one we double crochet. So that's double crochet 3, and now in the fourth we increase 1 and 2 double crochet in the same stitch, and now we repeat this 5 more times. 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, and then one last time. 1, 2, 3, and increase. So that's round 5 done. So again we can lay the contrast color yarn on top, and here on the other side you can see how it's woven into our work, so we can check the inside if we are unsure if we reach the end of the round. So now our round has 30 stitches, and just a side note, if you're ever unsure how many rounds you've done, if you lost count, you can always start here from the middle, which is where we made the magic ring, and then this is the first round, and there are these gaps in between rounds. So this is the first round, second, third, fourth, fifth. So we made 5 rounds now. Now for the following rounds, round 6 to 9, we double crochet in all 30 stitches. So our stitch count remains 30, and we don't do any increases. So we simply double crochet 1 in each of the stitches of our rounds for 4 rounds. So I'm just going ahead and doing that. If you're faster than me, feel free to fast forward the video, and if you need more time, feel free to pause the video here. Or whenever necessary, so that we can continue together. So here we reach the end of the round, because that's where our yarn end is peeking out. And if you're ever unsure, if you lost your yarn, your contrast color yarn or something, here these two V shapes that are in the same gap, they are what we finished the round, the previous round with. So once you crochet in the second one of these two, then you know that you made the last stitch of the round. So that's round 6 done. So the contrast yarn goes on top again if you're using it, or you can mark the end with your stitch marker instead, or with a safety pin. And now we continue with round 7, which are also simply 30 double crochet, 1 in each. So now you can see that your circle shape obviously doesn't increase anymore, so now it's becoming like a little basket shape. And that what we're making now is going to be the head of the little bird. So when we have rounds with no increases or decreases, we don't really need to count. I usually don't. But honestly, I like the rounds in which I have to count, because that somehow has an even more calming effect, because you need to focus on what you're doing, and that's the benefit of crochet to me, that you can that you're kind of forced to forget the busy monkey mind and just focus on the thing you're doing with your hands. So that's round 7 done. The contrast color yarn goes on top again, and continue with round 8. that's round 6, 7, 8 done. So if you ever lose count here how many of the rounds without increases you have done, you can also go back and see, oh, this is the last increase I made, because there are 2 stitches in one gap. It looks differently than the single ones, and then you can count up from there, 1, 2, 3, or this was 5, so you can count 6, 7, 8. So now we'll do round 9, the last round without increases. So another 30 double crochet, 1 in each stitch. And if you're faster than me, please feel free to scroll forward. I hope I'll remember to put the minute somewhere where we continue with round 10. And if you need a bit more time, you can just pause the video once I've finished with this round here. So that's round 9 done, and in round 10 we keep increasing a bit further. So now the head is done, and for the body we go a bit wider. So in round 10 we double crochet 4 and then increase in every fifth stitch. So we'll end up with 36 stitches in our round. So here's the first stitch. So we double crochet 1 in there, and 1 in the next, that's 2, 1 in the next, that's 3, 1 in the next, that's 4, and then increase in the 5th. And as the pattern says, we repeat this 6 times as we did before. So once again, 1 double crochet in the next, 1 double crochet in the next, that's 2, 1 double crochet in the next, that's 3, 1 double crochet in the next, that's 4, and increase in the 5th. And so on and so on. Four, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, and once more, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. So now you can see that we're going a bit wider again. So now it's almost like it's beginning to look like a bell shape now. And it will look more after the next round. Because in round 11 we keep increasing. So this time we double crochet 5 and then we increase in every 6th stitch. And as before, we repeat this 6 times, so we'll end up with around 42 stitches. So 1 double crochet in the next, 1 in the next, that's 2, 1 in the next, that's 3, 1 in the next, that's 4, 1 in the next, that's 5, and increase. Again, 1 in the next, that's 1, 1 in the next, that's 2, 1 in the next, that's 3, 1 in the next, that's 4, 1 in the next, that's 5, and increase. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and increase. So here you can see that this is the increase we made in the previous round, and we always increase in the 2nd double crochet of the increase in the following round. Now that's not always the case, it's okay in this pattern, but sometimes this pattern needs to be broken up because it's kind of visible that we're not actually making a circle. It looks a bit like a hexagon, and that's because the increases are always in the same spot, and for this pattern that's totally fine. But for some pattern this needs to be avoided, but it will all be explained in the pattern you want to use. So there's no need to worry about that now. That's an increase, so again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase. So that's round 11 done. And now for the next 4 rounds we will simply double crochet in all 42 stitches that we now have. So the thread goes on top of the working end again. So here in the back you can see it better. It's just later we will still be able to pull it out. But it's quite interesting with this to see how the beginning of the round shifts, because with crochet it just, with every round it just shifts toward the right, so that's why it's not a straight line. That's perfectly normal. So now in round 12 we double crochet in all 42 stitches, without any increases. So just continue in your own time, and later pause the video or fast forward if you're faster than me. So we did have the bell shape now because we kept increasing for 2 more rounds. But now after these 4 rounds You'll notice that now again we just go straight up because we don't have any increases. And that's the end of round 12 for me. And round 13 is the same, just double crochet 1 in each of all the 24 stitches. And that's round 13 complete. And round 14 is the same again. Double crochet 20, 42, or double crochet in all 42 stitches. Okay, so just to double check, The last round that we increased was 11, so 12, 13, 14. So that's round 14 complete for me. And now onto the last round without increases or decreases, which is what we'll get to soon. So round 15, we'll double crochet 1 in each of the 42 stitches again. For me, because I'm using cotton yarn, sometimes the yarn splits. So if that happens, then I just go back a few stitches to fix it. And that's round 15 complete. So now we already have the head, which is this part, and most of the body even. And in round 16 it gets interesting because now we start to decrease. So the contrast color yarn goes on top again. And now in round 16 it says double crochet in the next 5 stitches and then DEC, which stands for decrease. And once more we repeat this 6 times so that we'll go down to 36 stitches. So we start with the easy part. We double crochet 5, so 1 in the next stitch, that's 1 in the next, that's 2, 1 in the next, that's 3, 1 in the next, that's 4, 1 in the next, that's 5. So now we need to decrease because here we slowly close our amigurumi bird. So in each round we need less and less and less stitches, and we decrease at the same rate that we increased at. So we decrease by 6 stitches in every round. So now I just like to show you how it's not done, just so you know what not to do, which sometimes can be helpful. So in some patterns that are maybe not amigurumi, or I don't know, sometimes it's just even if they are amigurumi and it's worked in rows rather than rounds like we're doing now, then it might say SK, which means skip. So in this case you skip the next stitch and simply double crochet in the next stitch, and this is how you decrease a stitch. but it doesn't look good because you can still see the stitch here that is simply skipped, and in Amigurumi there might be a gap built there, which we don't want because we're going to stuff this chubby bird and we want the gaps to be as small as possible so that none of the Fiberfill will show through. So we're making an invisible decrease, and if you want slower tutorial on that, in case, I'll just link to it right there, but we go through it slowly right now, but just so I don't repeat it at every decrease. If you want to practice a bit, you can click the link there in the upper right corner to have a separate little tutorial just on that. So we insert our hook in only the front loop of the next stitch. So this right here is the front loop, and the other one, this one here, is the back loop, and that's the two loops that our stitch is made of. So front loop and back loop. And right now we only need the front loop, so we insert our hook in the front loop of the next stitch, and then also in the front loop of the stitch behind that. So now we have the front loops of the next two stitches on our hook plus the loop that already was on our hook, so that makes 3 loops. And then we pick up the yarn and only pull it through those 2 front loops. So now we have 2 loops on our hook again, and we pulled it through the 2 front loops there, so we turn 2 stitches into 1. And then we just complete the double crochet by picking up the yarn again and pulling it through these 2 loops. And that's it. So now our round has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches so far, instead of the 7 that it did have before. So if you want to practice this a bit, once more, you can go to that video link in the upper right corner, and it's also linked to in the description if you open that. Otherwise, we'll continue. So we need to do this 5 more times. So double crochet in the next 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we insert our hook in the front loop, and in the next front loop pick up the yarn, pull it through the 2 front loops, pick it up again and pull it through both loops, and again 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, 5 double crochet, and 5, and decrease, and again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and decrease, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and decrease, and that's round 16 done. So we lay the contrast color thread on top of the working end once more, and in round 17 we keep decreasing. So this time we double crochet in the next 4 stitches and then decrease, and we repeat this 6 times. So then we'll be back to a stitch count of 30. So we double crochet 1 in the next stitch, 1 in the next, that's 2, 1 in the next 3, 1 in the next 4, and decrease. And again 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and decrease. One, 2, 3, 4, and decrease. So that's round 17 done. Now in round 18 we double crochet in the next 3 stitches and then we decrease, and as always we repeat this 6 times. So 1 double crochet in the next stitch, 1 in the next, that's 2, 1 in the next, that's 3, and decrease. And again 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 2, 3, one, 2, 3, and decrease. So now we're going to make the face and add a few of the details. So if you have a stitch marker or a safety pin, you can put it, insert it in the loop like this so that you don't lose your stitch. But if you don't have any, just pull out your stitch a lot so you won't lose it while we do these next steps. So as you can see, the little bird is taking shape now. And now we can make the beak, which is very quick and easy. Embroider the eyes and add the little fluffy hair. And we can even start adding this fluff on the tail as well. Crochet the rest of our little chubby chick in part 2 of this tutorial, which I'll link to over there. So see you there.